So today we're going to look at how to use a tool named Mapwarper to make maps and imagery available for mapping activities. One of the big differences between OpenStreetMap and OpenHistoricalMap has to do with sourcing. OSM has a number of relatively modern sources of aerial and satellite imagery built into its map editors. Bing, Esri, and Mapbox sources are all readily available. These layers are of very limited use in a historical map. So for historical mapping, we need to go elsewhere. This requires extra work. First, you need to do research to find maps and imagery. Second, maps frequently need to be aligned with a modern map, which is called georeferencing or rectification. Once this is done, we can then set up the map or image as a layer in the map editor of our choice, which will probably be ID or JOSM for the Open Historical Map application. Today we're going to use a map from the New York State Museum collection. It's a survey map from the very early years of the Erie Canal. This one is from 1834, which is 10 years after the Albany end of the canal was opened. It's a pretty nice map, precisely surveyed, and there is enough available today to allow it to be aligned fairly well. So we've got the map page here on the New York State Education Department site. And we see that we actually have a huge number of maps because this is a survey of the entire length of the Erie Canal. And of course, since it starts on the Buffalo end and we want the Albany end, we kind of have to scroll a ways down to get to the map we care about. And, the main thing is that I know the map when I see it, so we're going to get there. It's a long canal, so there's a lot of little maps, which actually is a testimony to the amount of detail that we will be able to get in Open Historic Map for the Erie Canal when we finally seriously launch that project. I'm going to be a few seconds more, but I will... see, I chose to show you the top so that you could see that page ref title. And so I pay the price by having to scroll this far down for you. Okay, it's Champlain Canal survey, so we've gone too far because the Champlain Canal, which goes north to Montreal, is also on this page. So I got a little enthusiastic, but right here, this one that I'm mousing is the map we want. This map, which we've clicked on, is on the Albany Terminus of the Erie Canal as it was in 1834. So we'll zoom in a little bit and take a quick look. One of the tricks when you're going to bring one of these maps into Mapwarper in order to align it is I'm going to turn off that notification. I should have done this before I started that video. Well, this thing is taking a while to zoom in on, so we will not worry about it right now. But we're going to go back, and I've already downloaded this map, so there's not a critical need to look at it through this web interface, but I will want to grab that URL in a moment. So let's just settle there. I download the map already, and it is in a TIFF, and I will convert that to a JPEG for uploading to Mapwarper just in order to save a little bit on the size, but I will keep the TIFF, which is high resolution and no loss for my personal reference purposes. The JPEG has already been converted, so now what we need to do is we need to go to Mapwarper in order to upload it. So you need to create a login on Mapwarper. I'm already logged in. So we're going to go to Upload Map, which is where we bring it in. Now this is a Mapwarper hack. I always fill in the title last. And the reason I do that is because if you accidentally try to upload the map too early, you end up with an annoying potential error state where you have to delete the image and then do the whole thing over again. If you leave the title out and you click click create too early, then the error is a lot simpler to clean up. So now here we are. We're going to start on the right column and pretty generically set the subject area to Erie Canal. And then we're going to go and we need to set a metadata unique ID. So what I'm going to do is grab the root of the file name, and that will work because it's almost certainly pretty unique. Note that Mapwarper does check for uniqueness, so you kind of want to not be sloppy and use map A, map B, map C. Use something that is probably going to be unique. We set the reference. Use the URL as the source reference URL. Sometimes you have a call number. When I get maps from the Library of Congress, they have call numbers. The publisher was the New York State Canal Commissioners. And the place I got it from is the New York State Education Department. The date depicted, 1834. I don't really need to fill any more of this in. We will, now that we're at the bottom, we are going to do the browse. And we need to get to the correct directory, Capital District, Erie Canal, 1834, and we want this JPEG. So the map is selected. Issue year is the same as date depicted, 1834. And really, the description and the title here pretty much might as well be the same. So. And that's everything we filled in, so we click on create. Now for my own reference purposes, when a map is been uploaded, I like to mark it. Now I'm using the Mac feature of putting it in green. So now I know that that one is already on Mapwarper. And that's just a useful bit of housekeeping. Now the thing that Mapwarper will do is it will show you this little moving ball back and forth in the URL up in the tab while it is uploading. And basically you should not disturb this tab while you're uploading. So we've restarted the recording. I shut it off because the upload was taking a while, but now the upload is completed. So it tells us that the map was successfully created. It is uploaded. We can zoom and pan, although we kind of zoomed in a lot for a map that is at this level. But we can get a good sense of the quality of the map. So now what we need to do is rectify the map. So we click on the Rectify tab. And now what we have are two panes side by side. One of them contains our map. The other one contains a high-level OpenStreetMap view. So we have a lot of zooming to do. Unfortunately, I have a fairly accurate idea of where Albany is, having lived here since 1976. So we're going to start zooming in. And again, modern maps can be a real challenge when the landscape has changed a lot. And in particular, the area where the Erie Canal joined the Hudson River is now the location of Interstate 787. And one of the little secrets that is known to Erie Canal scholars, I'm waiting for the OSM panes to refresh. They're running a touch slow right now. But you see there is this diagonal boulevard named Erie Boulevard. It was very common when the Erie Canal got filled in to name the new boulevard Erie Boulevard. So guess what we're looking at here? And as I said, I was pretty sure there was enough to align on. And as it happens, we have this wacky street here named North Market Street, and this is where research and knowledge pays off. Market Street is today called Broadway. And so the modern map, we see Broadway. We've got Lawrence Street and Ferry Street, and over here we have Lawrence Street and Ferry Street. So right there we have two control points. So we use the icons in the upper corner, and we want to add a control point. So we use that little pointer icon and we slap it right down in the middle of that intersection. And we slap it right down in the middle of the intersection, and then we click Add Control Point. Then we slap one right down in the middle of the intersection, right down in the middle of the intersection, Add Control Point. Now we need to pan, so quickly we click on the little hand icon so that we can pan over. And here we have Lawrence Street intersecting with Montgomery Street. Montgomery Street is not aimed, but that is the correct location for it. So we're going with it. Montgomery Street. Add control point. So you see that the control points are kind of a teal blue. If we were to exceed 3 control points, then it would start giving us error estimations based on, the can't all be right. There's going to be some error. So let's take a look. If we click on control points, it will actually give a list of them. And of course, it shows 0 error because you need 4 before you can have an error estimation. So that pretty much covers it. What I want to do is get out of control point mode and back into pan mode before I start doing anything else, because accidentally being in control point mode is sometimes an annoyance. And now we're ready to run a warp and see what it gets. And the warp will run a lot faster than the upload, especially with only 3 points. So we have choices because now we can see the overlays. In particular, what we want to do is look at the alignment of Erie Boulevard and the canal, and that's not too bad. We could look at it at a higher level, though, if we scroll back up here and go to the Preview tab. Preview tab gives us a much bigger panel in order to assess this. And we see a whole bunch of things. We see pretty decent alignment of North Market with modern Broadway. We've got a decent enough alignment of North Lawrence with Lawrence and Ferry with Ferry. Railroads, of course, were not there in 1834. A lot of stuff wasn't there in 1834, so this will do for now, but there's one more step we want to take. Know that this is going very fast because of the relatively small size of the map. This can be harder. We've gone to the crop tab, and the reason we went to the crop tab is because there's an awful lot of these maps, and it might make sense to create a mosaic. And if we want to create a mosaic, then we would like to get rid of these borders. So what we can do in the crop tab is we select that second icon there. And we Just draw the borders and then double click on the final point and mask map. So now we are masking the map, which will just basically remove the border if we choose to use this in a mosaic. Now we can go back to preview and we can see that the border has been removed. And before we do anything further with this map, I just want to come over here to another Mapwarper view and show you, that's the wrong one. There it is. This is an example of a mosaic made out of individual maps. These are panes from the Sanborn Fire Insurance map of 1892, which I got from the Library of Congress, and I'm gradually building out, and we'll probably come back and look at this one in a follow-up video. But right now, we need to focus on this specific map that we just aligned, because, you know, we've aligned it, and now we would like to make use of it. So we get back over here, and we look at this final tab, Export. And we go down here and we see that we have a variety of map services. The one we want to use with the OSM editor is the Tiles Google OSM scheme. So we just highlight that URL and make a copy of the URL. And I just happen to have an instance of JOSM aimed at the correct part of Open Historic Map. Then we can see that this is the 1892 mosaic right here, and we see the basin where the canal enters. I'm going to black that out. I'm going to come over to JOSM Preferences. This one towards the bottom, this little green one, Modify List of Imagery Layers. We want to add the TMS URL. That's the one we just copied from over there. Copy that into place, and now we're going to put that in here as 1934 Erie Canal Survey. So now, the imagery list has 1834 Erie Canal Survey in it. And look, we have the Albany Basin. This actually is a fun thing to overlay because what we see is revision to the canal. The 1834 is the original Erie Canal, and the 1892 is showing what's called the enlarged Erie Canal. So we see that they significantly increased the size of the Little Basin, as it was called, and the original locks was here, and then they moved the lock further south. So this is a useful historical discovery, and this will be a thing that requires temporal modeling in Open Historic Map, so we can show the canal changing with a time slider, which I look forward to doing. So anyway, that's an example of how to do this in Open Historic Map, and I will post some useful links on research in the description of this video later on, but in the meantime, I just want to get this up there so that we can provide this link to YouTube when we start doing presentations on OHM. So thank you for listening, and have a nice day.